So, Jesus, I just pray that you will open our hearts, that you will open our minds, and that you will allow new thoughts, new ideas, new solutions, and new beginnings.
Well, welcome back. This is our final September episode. This week, we are going to talk to you about solutions to all of the things we've talked about in the 3 previous weeks. We are the Christian Women's Health Collective. We are so grateful you are here, and we cannot wait to share some experience with you in this week's episode. So, what do we want to talk about? Solution. Let's go, ladies.
Solutions. Well, I have a thought, and this is a little twist, little plot twist, but I think we should maybe start off with a prayer just to kind of pray over the people that are listening, because when we think about solutions, who gives us the solution? We can come up with them all day long on our own self, but really I think we should turn to the Lord to see where we need to look at our solution starting process and what that looks like for us individually.
Amen.
So do one of you want us to do that, or shall I go ahead?
You just go right on ahead, my friend.
Okay. So, dear Jesus, I just want to bring anybody who's listening to this podcast and us for sharing information to you, God, and just ask in your name that you just cover everyone, and that we all come to you not knowing, what the right things are. We see things inside this jar. There's no way to see what's going on in the outside, but you see it all. So Jesus, I just pray that you will open our hearts, that you will open our minds, and that you will allow new thoughts, new ideas, new solutions, and new beginnings to come to light. I think we look for so many different answers and so many places. And so, God, I just pray that we as a collective can find a way that we can offer and allow transparency and just women to come in who they are, where they are, to find hope, healing, and encouragement, and that the same will happen for us. So, Jesus, if there's somebody praying with me now, then I just pray, God, that as a group coming together in your name, that you will give us that thought, that momentum, that courage, just that word that says, this is the way you need to go. This is something that you need to take with you as a solution. And then you just put that nudge in our minds that it just pierces us and then forwards us to where we need to go to take the right direction, to bring new healing through you and with you and with the collective. Jesus, I ask this in your name and everything we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So with that, I say we were going to talk about solutions, but I think about solutions start with knowing who you are and where you want to go in your journey. And maybe even not even then, maybe it's just knowing that you want to start a journey, right? Like, you want to change. Like, I know something's better for me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's, a health crisis. Sometimes that's a child's health crisis that'll spur us on to that event. It's different for everybody. Again, everything is unique in our travels and health. So,
Yeah. It usually takes a
what will bring you to
diagnosis.
that? A lot of times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, sometimes it does take that.
Well, that's all of our journeys, right? My mom's Alzheimer's was what kicked. I mean, I'd been interested in nutrition for years, but I never really took it as seriously as I do now. Had she not been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I realized that I was predisposed for it. Both you had kids that were diagnosed with nutrition problems, and then Julie and her kidney disease.
Yeah. And grief.
And grief.
And grief. Who would have thought? Who would have thought those things too? Some of them you don't even think about them affecting you. Sometimes I think we go through thinking, well, it just affects that one person or that one time. Who thought whole life?
Yeah.
And you just do what you have to do to get through it too, right? It's just, it's not like any Herculean effort. It is, and it's not, but it's like, you just do it. You do it. The women, a lot of moms, they just do what they need to do to help themselves, their children, or whatnot, get through things.
Oh, what about the avoiding mom? Like, I know I've had people to say, I experienced it. It's just we're too busy worrying about that now. We're going to take care of that next week. Or I'm just going to let that. We're just, they're probably just, we're just going to take care of that later. We have the people that really look hard for the solution and go overboard. Then there's the people that just avoid the solution altogether, right?
Yeah. Those are the heartbreakers.
It is.
Yeah. I know I talked to one client and she did everything for her children, bought organic, the whole 9 yards, and then she wouldn't do any of it for herself. And that is so hard to watch because, she may not be around for them always.
Yeah.
If she doesn't take care of herself.
Jordan Peterson, who's a psychologist that my husband really enjoys listening to, has an interesting book called the 12 rules for life or something like that. But he talks in there about how if your dog gets sick, the first thing you're going to do is take your dog to the vet. You're going to put your dog on whatever medication it needs to be on. You're going to feed your dog whatever the vet tells you need to feed it, and you're going to care for that dog however you need to care for it. But most people would never do the same for themselves. The first sign of a symptom, they don't go look for help. They wait until it's too late, or they wait until it's just so agonizing that they can't stand it anymore. And I think that that's very similar in the way that we view food and nutrition and just overcoming, hardships in life. And the solution can be really simple, but only if we're willing to look into the solution before it's so agonizing that the last thing we want to do is change our whole life.
Yeah, that's right.
And I believe that there's going to be a lot of women in this membership who are at that jumping off point. They're going to be at their bottom, their rock bottom, and be like, I can't do it anymore. And so solution is going to be so important,
Well, not just solution, but a community.
Well,
having women come around them and, encourage them and lift them up that you can do this, and guiding, whether, a lot of it would come with us from helping them, but other women in the group will also be, doing the lifting as well, and prayer and their faith and giving hope.
I think that everyone is going to have a health crisis at some point in their lives, or their family member is going to. And one of the hardest things about that is feeling alone in that health crisis. And I think I know that's why we are here and starting this collective, so that there is a community of support for people who are going through a health crisis, or they just want to take that first step towards a healthier lifestyle. I think it's important to have support and to have options and to have help.
Because a woman, a lot of time. Go ahead, Julie.
I was going to say, I think that, Leanne talked about the grief, and I think that was the really hard part for me, was nobody knew. I didn't know. And so you go through different things and you do feel alone because you don't tend to put your emotions with what you eat. And so then you become this crazy person because you're focusing on something that in somebody else's view or the world way is not associated. And then for me, it took a hold of my mind, because I was trying to put everything in its separate box, when really I should be putting everything in its own box and trying to look at it from a holistic approach rather than an individualistic approach. And I really clustered things up. And I think a lot of it was the eating that changed, which seems crazy to think about, doesn't it? You think about trauma and you think about eating, I never thought to put those two together, but that was a big deal. And it's been a big part of the healing journey with the mitochondria and trying to figure it out. And I think something that's really interesting to me is nobody took the time to say grief connected with any other disease or diagnosis. So for me, I just stopped eating and everything kind of catapulted. But that's going to happen for people who are stressed or depressed. I can't imagine like how many times somebody's gone to the doctor, they've been depressed for years. Well, then now they've got diabetes, now they've got hypertension, but it all goes back to I'm depressed. They don't know how to share the things that are going on in their body. It's kind of heartbreaking, really, isn't it?
Mhm.
Which I think is what we do is encourage you to pick up on those things. I think, Sherry, you're going to talk about most women don't know, right? Or something around that.
Well, I think that a lot of women, they don't have anybody else, right? Because they take care of everybody else. So when it comes to them having a health issue or a health crisis, I think there's a feeling of loneliness. There's a feeling of there's nobody there to help me. And I think can be a hopeless feeling, right? And women, I mean, go back to the caveman times. Women came together in community. They surrounded each other, and I guess that's what I see our group as too, is coming around and supporting and lifting those when they need to be lifted because they don't have anybody else to lift them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And right when you're saying, I think if I had been in my lost journey, I would say, well, how are you going to help me? How are you going to lift me? And I think the way that you have that happen is by knowing that you're not alone in your health journey, because there's so many different tools and resources, but for everybody, it looks different. And I think just seeing that people relate and that people learn from you too, because each one of us all have an individual, uniquely different story, but somebody relates to what's happened and they want to learn from you. And it makes you feel like you're not alone anymore. So it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. And being able to help someone else on the other side of your struggle with the same thing and giving them advice and help along the way that you wish you had, that's priceless.
That giving back, right? Being able to give back. It's a super good feeling.
Yeah. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We bounce off of each other and we all have our individual niches, but we know through our own personal experiences, the way that we are able to help other people. And I know for me, just in the environment that I met the three of you, I was ready to throw in the towel, I was still living my own journey, but I wanted to throw in the towel. And that last day, which if you haven't listened to the podcast from the very beginning of our podcast series, episode number 1, that last day when we met each other, or not met each other, but spoke to each other in a group setting right before we walked away, changed my life and changed the trajectory of what I wanted to do with my own personal business and my own personal offerings to people. And it's just been such an incredible blessing. And so I truly believe that God intervened. I truly believe that God has offered me a solution through the friendship that I've developed with the three of you. And I think that God has opened a door for us to offer a solution to a lot of other people in this world. And not just, obviously we want to bring solution from our Christian beliefs and our Christian perspective, and we want you to know and feel God inside and out, but we also want you to know and feel health inside and out, and what that looks like from each of our perspectives, from each of our niches. And so, like for me, I focus on Alzheimer's prevention, I focus on brain health, and I focus on reversal of Alzheimer's. And so my approach is very different from your approaches, but I still am able to utilize a lot of your approaches. I mean, I fast now more than I've ever fasted before. I am just absolutely intrigued with Sherry's knowledge of inflammation and reversing inflammation. And then Julie, you're just a little sunshine. You're a ray of sunshine, and your kidney disease, I had you on my podcast. Your kidney disease story is incredible. And while I don't suffer from kidney disease, because of knowing you, I've already met 2 other people who have been interested in working with you. And that's just God showing us that we're on the right path. but the grief, the grief that you walked through is such a huge thing to have to walk through, and your story is so inspiring. So we just all bounce off of each other, and we want to offer that to you who are listening. And so that's my piece of offering is, just being able to talk to people who are suffering from cognitive decline or know someone who is, and help them get through it, whether it's just through community and support and understanding that they don't have to go through it, or that there is a way, because we were caregivers too, or whether it's, truly helping someone change their life, change the way that they live so that they don't have to live with that disease. And it's completely up to you who are in this group, if that's what you're looking for. But that's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think change doesn't happen quickly. And I think part of the group too is to know that when you lose that hope, you're like, I just can't go on. There's somebody else there that says you can keep coming on, because that's part of that change. And that's probably the way that I felt the most. And as I've gone through my health journey, even this morning, I was like, I don't want to do it. There's so many days you just don't want to do it. But it's those small hinges that swing those really big doors, and it's those small steps that really propel you to learn something different and gain something new. And I think through the health journey, having different diagnoses, and then realizing if I had taken the medicine for rheumatoid arthritis that I didn't have, if I had taken medication for things that, I really was not diagnosed for, the damage that it could be doing otherwise. And while we don't know what that is for you, what we have are just resources and tools around mindset and how you can shift thoughts or reframe. I'm walking around as an unhealthy person is not a way that we want to stand. We want to say, I am walking around learning how to be the best health I can be in. I want to know clean health, talking about those positive things. And I want to know what good vegetables are. I want to try new vegetables. That was my thing. What vegetable does my body need? That was the question that I started out asking. That was my Jesus question, and my meditation, and just trying to figure out the journey is, what does my body need? Tell me what I need. Tell me what my body needs. And I think really that's the starting point, is get in tune with who you are, and then branch out where you need to go. And we're excited to bring you those resources and the tools to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a fun journey, I think. When you talk about healing, though, that's the cool part too, like to have a disease and then you are able to come off of medication or see healing within yourself. Celebrations. I think we're going to have some celebrations coming on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just taking those steps to, change what you put in your body is huge. It's once you start putting God's foods in your body and giving your body those things that, God put on this earth for us to eat, whether it be meat or whether it be vegetables and fruit, our body knows what to do with that, right? And when we eat those foods, then we potentially have less inflammation. And it's also, when you eat foods that are not God's foods and they're processed foods, those foods actually get stored in our bodies as fat. So you're actually creating fat in your body by eating those foods that are not God's foods, not those processed foods. So it's just creating more inflammation in your body. But, and that's, one of the things that I help people do too, is I also help them find out those foods that don't work for their body. So just like, Bree was saying about her daughter and my daughter, they have issues with dairy. And I know I have a sensitivity to dairy, and I have a sensitivity to gluten. And when you find those things that don't work for your body, then you can eliminate them from your diet, finding alternatives that taste just as good, honestly. And you don't have that information. So it is really super interesting, and all the different healthy hacks that you can do too, like with Brienne and her fasting. I mean, that to me is a huge health hack, healing hack.
It 100% is the biggest life hack, living health hack that we've ever discovered or found or started using and doing. And because the health benefits are just exponential. And isn't it interesting that God gave us a way of healing our bodies and allowing time for healing? Like I've been thinking a lot about that verse lately, in Ecclesiastes, how there's a time for everything, right? There's a time for, living, and time for dying, and time for joy, a time for celebrating, a time for feasting, time for, I don't know, you know what I'm talking about, the whole verse. But I think there's also a time for feasting and a time for fasting. And I think that we forget that God gave us all this wonderful food to enjoy for when we're feasting, when we're eating, but he also gave us fasting. He gave us fasting for lots of different reasons, but fasting to improve your health. Fasting as a tool in our toolbox, I guess, or a weapon in our arsenal for prayer. And I have definitely found, like, as far as the mindset thing goes, right, how we were talking about emotional eating a lot. And I think a lot of times we fill that hole in our soul where God belongs with food instead of with God. And so fasting allows us to reset that our priorities, right? So when you're fasting, you're saying, you know what? I don't want food as much as I want more of God in my life, and more of what he has to offer, and more of his healing, and more of his peace, and more of his presence. And so you're allowing that healing not only in your body, but also in your soul. You're allowing more of God in than you are focusing on food and what that is going to do for you, instead of allowing time and healing in your body with fasting, as far as just receiving more of God and more peace in your life, in your heart, in your mind, and all of those things. So I think fasting is a big part of anyone's healing journey. And I would definitely love to talk to anyone more about it. But I think it's huge. And I think it's a huge deal as far as mindset and just having freedom from food and food addiction, and always thinking about food, or having to think about food constantly, because I think you can go too far in that direction, that obsession with every single thing that I'm putting in my body, right? Mm-hmm. And so fasting just allows for a little more freedom in our mind and our mindset, and gives us time to think about other things, I guess, is what I mean.
That's so true. I want to touch on one thing. I don't talk a lot about it in our podcasting, but the fasting and the being closer to God kind of brought it to mind, and the idea that we fill the hole that we're missing with God and by eating a lot of food. But I'm a 16-year sober alcoholic, and while I was able to give up drinking 16 years ago and not have the desire to drink, food was a part of that too back then. But one of the things that I would want to talk about is addiction being a big part of uncontrollable eating, uncontrollable drinking, filling the hole that we're missing. I hear in recovery a lot in meetings, I needed to fill the God-sized hole in my soul. And that's what I did with drinking. And I believe that we do that with anything that we can possibly be addicted to. Right. And so I just want to put it out there that part of the solution doesn't necessarily have to be around nutrition. It can be around anything that you might have an addiction to. I want this community to be, I can't really relate to someone who is addicted to hard drugs, but I still would want this community to be open to anyone who's just trying to fill that God-sized hole in their mind and soul. Because in our last podcast, we really talked about how sugar is so addictive, and anything can be an addiction. Anything. Not eating, obsessing over what we put in our bodies, obsessing over what we drink, obsessing over, anything. Even fasting can be an addiction if we're not careful with it, and we can do damage to our bodies. So all of those things are really important for me to for me in particular, because I have such an addictive personality. That's why I realized that nutritional yeast, if you didn't listen to the last podcast, go check it out. Nutritional yeast is a trigger for me. I mean, it's truly an addiction, and I'll go out of my way to have it every day of the week. So I feel like that I want anybody in here who resonates with addiction to feel comfortable being in here and comfortable talking to us. And I would imagine that all of us in this group have known someone who has had an addiction and can talk to anyone in here. So just feel welcome. And one other thing I wanted to talk about is, Julie, I said something earlier about I don't have kidney disease and can't relate to it, but one of the biggest things that you have really enforced is knowing your labs. And I am so grateful for that, because that is one thing that I never focused on. And I would try all these new things, and I would do all these new fads, and never paid attention to what it was possibly doing to my body. And I think that that's, so I actually went and got a CAC test done shortly after I moved here, because I had eaten so terribly for so many years, and I wanted to see if I had any heart disease going on. Surprisingly, it was 0. I was really surprised, because my mom has heart disease. But knowing your labs, right? That's just so critically important before you start anything. So by all means, go get lab work done before you start anything new.
Lab work done. And which is what, I went and got my lab work drawn, but a lot of it was the fasting. And then with the things that I've done on my own, which has only been within the last, so like my journey has been a 5-year healing journey. I it started by trauma. I've always done education. Trauma was 5 years ago. And then like 2 years ago, I really kicked off, like, I'm gonna just change and just really pour in, and just got into my mind that food was the healing catalyst. And I think your lab work, so your labs are like your fingerprint. They tell what's going on inside the body. And there's so many things that the labs can tell you. Sometimes we feel like you go to the doctor and they're like, there's nothing wrong with you, but you feel it. You feel something, and what you feel is not wrong. It's not a lie. You're not stupid. You're not crazy. It's not in your head. So if a doctor tells you that, you just need to go away. Go find somebody else, because we can talk all day long about silent things that trigger where disease is evident. It is coming. Your body is telling you something for a reason. And so I think my encouragement is know your lab work. What do they mean? What's high, what's low, what your levels are. We'll talk about them. And then I think the other thing is taking what your body is telling you and apply it, share it, ask questions. Is it dry mouth? Is it itching? What is it body aches? Mine was body aches. The other thing that I had was I could tell, like, I did not crave food. So sometimes it's doing logs, but those are the things that we're going to give you here. Is we're not going to say, do this, do that. Like, we want to share resources, share tips, share, different things that we've picked up over the years, and hopefully you'll relate and go, oh yeah, I want to learn more about that, or oh yeah, that's me. Because I think you'll find they all go together. Immunity works with your cells, it works with diabetes, it works with somewhere we all connect, and then we all separate again. So it's going to be fun just to see what you come up with on things that you think that we can help you. So again, I want you to tell us if something triggers your mind and you're like, I want to know about, I don't care what it is. It could be anywhere from sex to food to families to friends to heck, I just feel like I'm crazy because I want to heal and all my friends are making fun of me because that really happened. So, nothing is off limits here. And if it's something that you don't want to post, then you could reach out to any of us individually too. We would, that works too.
Mhm.
So yeah. I don't know about y'all, but I'm all in it for the healing women. I want to be off of medication. And I want to know that not like, I think people will say, you want to be skinny. I don't want to be skinny. It's not it. I want to be healthy. Like I want to walk around and be like, I'm healthy.
Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to be skinny. I pump iron every day because I don't want to be skinny.
Be healthy.
I know. Exactly.
Okay, Arnold.
That's the thing. It's like, I don't know, the older I get, the easier it is to switch my mindset from the idea of being skinny to the idea of being strong, healthy, and being able to know and count on my body being able to do what I need it to do every day, all day.
Yeah.
I remember hearing in my younger years, oh, don't worry, by the time you get to such and such age, you're not going to care. No, you're going to not care about me, but not care what other people think. And I remember, I think I was 38 when it happened. I just remember the switch in my head. And I was just so much more comfortable in my own skin than I had ever been before. And it was a huge shift in mindset, which I would love to see happen in people much younger. But it was a huge shift in mindset. And it was no longer about what that guy over there thought about me, or if I looked like that girl over there who had the body I thought I wanted. It was much more about, how do I feel inside, and how do I look outside, but how do I look to myself in the mirror? And it was so funny because Tyler and I had gone, when we all met in Florida, we went paddleboarding with Julie and her husband, and she took pictures, and I was like, oh my gosh, I look like that, because I had just been so confident in how I looked. And I was like, wow, I really have a lot of extra weight on me. I want to get it off. And but it was not because I was so worried about what everybody else thought about me. It was because I was like, wow, if I look like that on the outside, what am I doing on the inside? Because I believe that when we take control of our nutrition, and we take control of our portions, and we take control of our fasting, as soon as we do that, our bodies level out, and we get to where we're supposed to be. It's this push for food. It's this push for, the restaurant industries. It's this push, and I'm getting ready to cross a controversial topic. It's this push for big food industries that want you to just gobble up their food and eat it so obsessively and so addictively that you're constantly on the medical path of medication, doctor's offices, insurance bills, so on and so forth. And it just makes me so sad. And so we came home, and I immediately took some action. And then Bree and her husband came up to Alaska, and we started talking to them, and then we started fasting more. And I quickly, but not in 5 days, but quickly got 15 pounds off just by making some changes. And it wasn't about me being worried about my weight. It was about me being worried about what was going on inside my body. So that's the mindset shift that I got to experience in just getting older, and realizing that it's not about being skinny. It's about longevity of life. And having extra weight on my body that's not supposed to be there means that I'm closing in the gap of the longevity of my life. I'm removing years. But doing the things that we're doing in this membership, and all of us independently, are things that will give us longer life that's worth living too. Because I look at my mother, who's 72 years old, just turned this past Friday. She hasn't got a clue who I am. She had no idea it was her birthday on Friday. We took cupcakes to her yesterday to celebrate her birthday. She didn't know. I told her 15 times it's your birthday. It never clicked. Never clicked. I don't want to be 72 and not able to know it's my birthday. It's too young, especially in this day and age. So That's our solution to all of you who are watching. The passion will come through every time one of us talks about something that really hits home. That's our solution. We want you to find longevity of life through health and wellness, but from a perspective of not trying to keep up with the Kardashians or not trying to be the skinny girl next door. It's about longevity of health. And that
quality of life. That's where it's at.
Quality.
I want to be able to run around with
say.
my grandkids. I want to be able to travel with my husband. I want to be able to do all the things. I want my body to be strong enough to do all the things that I want to do.
That was my
It's
turning.
about quantity, it's about quality.
It was my I was like, because I could feel myself dying. Like I could feel my body dying. I could tell. I knew, you know, and we all knew. But I think the turning point was, well, what do you want to live for? And it became grandkids. And then it was, okay, now how do I do that? And then it became, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a 70-year-old that I can't walk with my kids at Disney. Like, I want to be able to enjoy that and experience those moments. And I don't want to be the granny that they come to and I'm sitting in the lazy boy chair with my feet propped up because I'm so swole, you know. And that really, you hit it. That was my catalyst.
Love it.
Yeah, and we don't have to either, that we can change. We are not stuck where we are.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to be able to do everything that God's called me to do in my life. I don't want my health to be a detriment to that, you know. I want to be able to help everyone that I'm called to help and do all the things that I'm called to do.
Yeah.
Well, and if you really want to take it to a Christian level, it's kind of a slap in God's face. He gives us this body that's our temple, and we go out there and just torture it.
Trash it. Yeah. I did that for a long time.
Yeah.
Or we sit around and say, I don't know what to do. I don't know. And now if you're listening here, you have no excuse.
Right.
You know,
You better get in here. You better get in
We are
here.
right here with you. You're not alone.
Yes.
And it's a
When are we
journey.
getting in here?
Yeah. It's definitely a
When are we
journey. So
getting in
don't
here?
think it's gonna be a quick fix.
It's not a quick fix. It's never a quick fix. It's a
No.
journey.
Exactly. But if you need somewhere to
steps.
start,
We'll make it fun.
This is it.
Make it fun.
Yep. So
Nope.
we'll put a link. We'll put a link below on how you can join this group.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This is our final podcast of our pre-opening. This means that the membership group is officially open. We hope you will join us. We look so forward to serving you. We look so forward to bringing you closer to your health goals and hopefully to God in the process. And in the meantime, let us know if you have any comments or questions. Tap that subscribe button, click that notification bell, like our posts and our podcasts, and make sure you are checking us out, not here, but on YouTube, or here on YouTube and on our podcasts. Let everybody you know about it, and let us know how we can help you in the comments below. And there will also be a link to our brand new membership. All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.